one thing that, you know, as content creators we do that gets us even more hype for the event is predictions. So that is what I've got you here for today, my friend. We are going to go through the current card of WrestleMania 40. Of course, they will probably still add a few more matches. I think the current count is about 12 matches. Of course, that is over 2 nights, and so I think we're probably aiming for about 7 matches per night. But yeah, we're going to get started with the predictions, and we're going to start with the WWE Women's Championship match. Io Sky defending the title against Bayley. What have you thought of this build, and who's your money on?
So the build has been going on for arguably a year, you could argue, from the way that WrestleMania closed off, because Bayley wasn't getting the job done. Io Sky wanted the opportunity. She got it. She won Money in the Bank. Then she won the championship. And obviously, we've seen the way that Damage Control was built, and we've broke away. But in recent months, I do feel, especially since Bayley won the Royal Rumble, you know, we've seen lots of fans say, you know, it's time to give Bayley her flowers, because she's not really had they've not had the best build. I think because they've done a lot of their work pre-Royal Rumble, there's not so much left to have done since the Royal Rumble, if you know what I mean. I think that the breakup of Damage Control, when Bayley was, you know, arguably kind of kicked out of the group, I think it came kind of premature after the Rumble. I think they could have dragged it out a few more weeks. That being said, though, I think the match is going to be great when it comes to WrestleMania itself. I'm looking forward to it. Io, I've always thought, is one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. Bayley obviously has had moments as being a champion at WrestleMania in the past, but I think mainly the pandemic one was the one she walked in as SmackDown Women's Champion and left. So I think it's going to be good for her to have a big moment of winning a title in front of fans. It's sad it's not got a main event potential, being a Rumble winner for Bayley, but I still think it'd be great on the night. I think Bayley will be your next WWE Women's Champion. Of course, we've dropped the Raw and SmackDown moniker names now.
Yeah, we have. I immediately thought, yeah, Bayley's gonna do this. I probably still tilt towards Bayley. I might say 60-40, but at the same time, Bayley is just so selfless that I think that she would probably recognize, if we're all being honest, Io Sky's run hasn't really been the best as champion. Her run has very much been embedded in this Damage Control stuff, so she hasn't really shone as an individual champion. And to a degree, I hope Bayley isn't selfless. I want her to have this moment of her winning. I hope she doesn't think that, okay, let me be like a big sacrificial lamb for Io's title reign to kind of improve it. And then I also think Io has more competitors, high level competitors. If she remains as champion later on, they could have a Naomi, they could have a Bianca Belair. I feel there's bigger names on that women's side, like of the face spectrum, rather than the heels. If Bayley's to win, okay, she can get a rematch with Io Sky. Maybe a Dakota Kai can go after it as well.
Yeah,
maybe a Bianca Belair in some friendly jest and Naomi. I just don't. If you see what I mean, I just don't feel like the balance of heel to face on the SmackDown roster is so much so in that will help Bayley's run. Io actually might benefit more. So I want Bayley to win too, but a small inkling of me thinks that Io could retain, just so that they can birth another star sort of thing.
I think that would be a good move in a way, like you said, because a big win at WrestleMania for Io would really put her on a high pedestal. And then, like you say, you're talking then Io as one of the top players moving forward. I think the WWE draft could be after WrestleMania. I think last year they did it between Mania and Backlash. But if they don't do that, then I could agree with your point of, well, who does Bayley face if she wins those titles? So I see that argument. There is also the case, though, that Bayley's going through Jey Uso syndrome as well at the moment. The fact that she's been bad for so long, that now that she's turned good, it's almost a little bit like, there's do we trust her? Bianca's coming like, well, she's made her bed, let her lie in it. So you could see they could do that with could almost tease the idea of a Bianca heel turn in a way if they were to do a match with Bayley and Bianca for the women's championship should Bayley win. So it's going to be fascinating. And to be fair, I was very 100 or 99 to 1 that Bayley was going to do it, but you've put a bit of seed of doubt in the mind there, but I will stick with the Bayley one just for now.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with Bayley. And like I said, I want her to have her moment, but yeah, what's right for the division, which Bayley has always kind of done, what's right for the division, it may just be an Io Sky retention. Let's talk about the other Women's World Championship match. Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. Although, like you mentioned, Bayley may have been shafted from a main event because, she won the Rumble. If anything probably was the main event, it probably was this one, Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. They have also been shafted from that position because of everything going on with that top level story involving the bloodline. Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch. I'm going to go for a Rhea Ripley title defense. I think a year ago, I thought this was going to be the match, and I thought Becky Lynch wins to kind of then birth the next star, which she would do, drop it to someone else on the card. Right now, I don't see anybody beating Rhea Ripley. I just think she's on the run of her life. I think she's on an absolute tear. The title run started slowly, with a few defenses against like a Zelina Vega and Natalia, stuff like that. Towards the end of last year, they started actually to build up credible challenges in the division, and her character work from last year leading into this year has been obviously very much situated around Judgment Day and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, as great as Becky Lynch is, as much of a star as she is, and as much of a barn burner performance they're going to put on, I just don't think that she can overcome Rhea Ripley at this time. What's your thoughts?
Honestly, I like the way they've teased this through the year because, you could have said, oh, could this have been at SummerSlam? Could it have been at Survivor Series? Could it have been at the Rumble? They've always crossed paths just when they've had we're going to finish off the feud they're going to have before they start the next one. And it's always just been that cross backstage and just leave it. So I like the fact they've teased this match for a long time. Like you said, now it's coming. We're finally getting it at WrestleMania, and it does feel like a big time feel. I do wonder if we're going to get a similar syndrome to last year. Obviously, WrestleMania 39, Rhea and Charlotte were arguably one of the matches of the year, and they didn't get their main event spot. And I think Rhea and Becky could want to prove that same point again this year. So I think this match is going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. I am on the same camp as you, though. I think there's no way Rhea is losing this championship anytime soon. She has been so dominant. I feel that the only person capable of taking that title from Rhea right now is Bianca Belair, currently on paper. It's the only one. And I think that's also a WrestleMania match. They've teased that for a couple of years. I think it's next year at WrestleMania. But at the same time, I feel that Becky's contract situation can't be ignored. It seems to be heavily rumored right now that she's only got a couple of months left. I don't think she's going anywhere. I think she's sticking around. However, it would be almost insanity if someone's leaving your company or could leave your company in a couple of months and they have your championship. It just feels like WWE wouldn't give that power away, whoever it is. So I'm going to go for Rhea to retain.
Yeah. And to your point with Bianca Belair, I predict the exact same thing next year. That will main event, even if it's the night one main event, Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair for that world title. It's going to be Bianca's streak versus Rhea Ripley's undefeated run. By then, surely, I think she would have, broken any record for longest reigning women's champion and stuff like that. So, I definitely think that's what we're in for next year. Let's move on to the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship, as the champion calls it. Gunther versus Sami Zayn. I'll let you start. What's your thoughts of how we've got to this match, and who do you think's going to win?
It's almost the hardest match to predict for me on this entire card, because a month ago I thought this match was going to happen, and I was clear of what I thought would be the result. However, the storyline for me, I think, needed a few more weeks. I think the match is going to be brilliant. I think the match could steal the whole weekend. But I feel, especially with the fact that Sami Zayn has his run to get this match, and then now it's the fact that Gunther's in his head, and now he feels like he's going to get Chad Gable as like a coach. Feels like almost Sami wants to go through the academy just at the last minute. And I wish we'd just seen more time to see Sami and Chad backstage working their thing to show us why Sami is going to be ready for Gunther come WrestleMania, especially when it comes to the mind games. So just like to have seen that. Maybe they'll find a way to give us that in Brooklyn on Raw. I'm not sure, but I still feel to myself that would be nice just to give a few more weeks just to establish this feud further. However, it's hard to back against Gunther. I was going to originally. This is what I originally predicted, and this goes to another match later in the card. So unfortunately, but bear with me. I thought Sammy and KO were both going to win my mid-card titles, and I thought they were going to get a Benoit and Eddie Guerrero moment where they could celebrate with championships at WrestleMania.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It does make sense. However, I'm not sure I still feel that way. I feel it's time for Gunther to move to the heavyweight title division. I think it would have happened had it been a triple threat match with Chad Gable involved. Since that's not going to happen, I'm going to go for Gunther to retain. I think that Chad Gable has made a point to Sammy, and the fact that we've got such little time between now and Mania, I think that we may need at least another month to get that title off Gunther.
Yeah, I agree that Gunther probably retains here. I think Sami Zayn, obviously, he won the gauntlet to get this opportunity. I think that's all this is, his opportunity. Obviously, we're seeing a story brewing between Chad Gable, Sami Zayn, Chad Gable still being involved in what Gunther is doing. I do think Chad Gable's probably the guy that's going to beat Gunther for this title. But right now, it's just Sami Zayn's turn to have a go at it. Like you, I think they'll probably steal the weekend with a fantastic match. But I think Gunther retains as well. I don't think he's losing that title to Sami Zayn at Mania.
Yeah.
The undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship ladder match. This is an absolute cluster. It's going to be a car crash, this match. Finn Balor and Damian Priest of the Judgment Day defending the titles against DIY, The Awesome Truth, New Day, New Catch Republic, and Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. For a long time, I thought that this is going to be an Awesome Truth win because of the whole relationship between R-Truth and the Judgment Day and stuff like that. I still think they're going to win. However, I just feel like you can do so much more than with any other kind of team than the Awesome Truth. Like, it'll be a great moment, and then Monday Night Raw, then what, sort of thing. And that's how I kind of feel if they win it. Who do you think is going to leave with the titles?
So when it comes to this, there's a theory that's going around on social media. In fact, we discussed it when you was on my Q&A. And I think that there could be some legs with this because there are 6 teams, Raw and SmackDown involved. We still have tag team championships that have Raw and SmackDown on them. However, SmackDown never really gets their own tag team titles. So the theory that was going around was that one team would pull off the Raw tag team titles and another team would pull off the SmackDown tag team titles. And this is a way to finally separate them and get them on their individual shows again. There was another theory that was put to me of how one team gets hold of one Raw and SmackDown and one member gets hold of one of the other. So it's kind of like, okay, we've got a bit of confusion, or even further. So we have to have some other matches to determine this. But I think that could be too confusing for WrestleMania. So I am going to go with, like you said, their Awesome Truth. They have been heavily plugging the idea that R-Truth has not won at a WrestleMania. And he's been in the company for, I think it's since 2001. They are saying 30 years. It's not as long as that. Yeah, I think 2001. So I think it's time for him to win a match at WrestleMania. And the fact is as well that Truth could be the one that could climb the correct ladder after. I'm sure he'll just pick out a step ladder to begin with in the match because it's Truth. He's going to do something comedic at the start. But I think he will be the one that will take the titles off. And I think that the whole place is going to be thunderous when he does it.
Yeah, and because it's Truth, that's why I'm in the camp as well. I've heard the rumors, and I'm in the camp that he can go up the ladder and he can just pull down the Raw tag team titles. And Miz is telling him, "Well, you forgot the other one," sort of thing. And he's like, "No, we're on Raw. Like that's it. We've won." So, and then maybe the match continues. You get that. I do think it's maybe a bit convoluted for WrestleMania, but at the same time, I do think it's better than Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis coming out and officially separating titles that are unified titles, sort of thing. So a bit of a mess, but like I said, this entire match is going to be a car crash. So we'll see how we do with it. We've got the United States Championship match as well. Logan Paul, the champion, defending against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. You obviously just mentioned not too long ago that you thought previously Kevin Owens was going to get the win here. Who's your money on? Is it still Kevin Owens or someone else?
No. Now that I don't believe Sammy's winning, I believe KO is taking the fall. I think hearing that SummerSlam is now going to be in Cleveland and Logan Paul is the heavy promotion for it, a part of me thinks that him and Randy Orton will end up being a singles match at SummerSlam. So it's going to be one of those two walking away as United States champion. Now, for me personally, I'm not too keen on the idea of Randy Orton as United States champion just because of the fact that I think he's above that level. And I think someone could get a better rub, if you want, by beating Logan Paul, the social media megastar, if you will. LA Knight, for example, would be a great candidate, in my opinion. However, I think Logan Paul is going to take one of the most spectacular RKOs ever in this match. I can see that. He's surely going to want that. So I'm going to predict Randy Orton to win. And we can see what it leads to down the line. Whether it's Orton and Logan at SummerSlam or Logan versus Cena at SummerSlam. I think Logan gets one of those two in Cleveland.
Oh no, you've planted the seed in my head. I totally didn't consider that. Yeah, I don't think Kevin Owens is winning. If Randy Orton wins, for me, it's because he's Randy Orton. I think I'll play it safe and I'll stick with Logan Paul. I did kind of think Logan Paul would retain at this point. You mentioned LA Knight. I thought the original match might have been some type of 6-pack challenge or LA Knight versus Logan Paul, where I would have 100% said LA Knight is winning. But with the current field, I think I'll stick with a Logan Paul win. And you mentioned SummerSlam.
Yeah.
I think since they mentioned the SummerSlam in Cleveland, I kind of thought it was going to be Cody Rhodes defending the world title against Logan Paul at SummerSlam. I mean, to be honest, he could still be United States champion if that happens or not. But yeah, I think we'll have to see. Okay, we're split on that one. Randy Orton, Logan Paul. We'll see how it goes. We'll see maybe over the next week of programming if our minds change further. Yeah, literally. We mentioned him, so let's talk about him. LA Knight versus AJ Styles. Like you mentioned earlier, they've been fighting since about October. We've seen, AJ Styles getting on an airplane to catch LA Knight in the Elimination Chamber. We've seen home invasions by LA Knight. We've seen LA Knight now dressing up as a member of staff to get his hands on AJ Styles. They're making the most out of what I would respectfully call a bit of a nothing feud. But they are making the most out of it. Who gets the win? I want to say AJ Styles. I really do. But I just think momentum says LA Knight. So I'll go with LA Knight. But if I'm completely honest, I don't believe it. In my heart of hearts, I don't even believe what I'm saying. What do you think?
For me, this is one of those weird matches at WrestleMania, like you say, because it's technically a nothing match. And if we're going to look at the right move, in my opinion, I think the right move is that LA Knight wins because he's the fresher face, even though he's not necessarily much younger than AJ Styles. He's the fresher face, the new kid on the block. And you have the chance to maximize the star power, the shirt sales. If he keeps losing, that is going to fade away like a Dolph Ziggler. And we're not going to be talking about LA Knight in a few months' time.
True.
But AJ is, I believe I've seen this on the socials, that he's rumored to be having a new entrance music at WrestleMania because his current one doesn't fit who AJ is now. I'm struggling to see who AJ is now. So I'd like to see what this music is because AJ is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And if you asked me this question up to about 6 months ago, he was my favorite WWE superstar, but he's not been around enough in the last 12 months for me to still warrant saying that. So for me, I think the right move is LA Knight, but I wouldn't be surprised if LA loses here and AJ gets the win and they drag this over another month. But for me, I think it's time for the air movement.
Yeah. I think AJ Styles, like they brought him back. He looked great. He looks in great shape. He's obviously angry. He's obviously a heel, but it's like, why? They haven't really kind of given his character, like they've changed his character, but they almost haven't given it a purpose or as to why, he is this person he is now. So it's a weird one.
It's a bit much for because the whole thing's when we say go back to October, it's like LA Knight filled his spot because he got taken out by the bloodline. He backed up John Cena. It's like, yeah, you backed up John Cena and took my spot. It's like, well, you weren't going to make it. So I mean, you don't need to be too angry with him. Did you not care that John Cena was going to go in 2-on-1 then down? It's just about you getting your revenge and not caring about the others involved. So in a way, it's a bit of a weird one, but it's like, yeah, you jumped in, you took my spot, you took my championship match at Crown Jewel. you weren't going to be there. So you got a chance of the Rumble, and then you both cancelled each other out. So you've only got yourselves to blame a little bit. So yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you with this. I want to see more what the purpose of this heel AJ Styles is, because he's even broke away from the OC to the point they've had to go to NXT. Paul Meechin just struggles to get on TV in general. So I mean, it's just it's a shame with that group really, because I was quite excited when they were actually drafted the SmackDown and AJ made his return back last May.
Yeah, we'll see if, like you're saying, the change of music and all of that stuff gives purpose. I would like to see at least AJ Styles gather some momentum over the year. So, like the likes of a Cody Rhodes who may become champion, which we'll talk about soon. Like he has some, credible challengers for that title that can put on some great matches with him. Even in defeat AJ Styles, I feel that's where he should be, as opposed to just doing a bit of this mid-cardy stuff. But we'll see how it works out for these guys. Another match which I don't feel they've told the story particularly well, but this is gonna be one for the ages just because of their brothers. Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso. Like I was saying, I feel like that moment of Jey coming out number 1 in the Rumble, Jimmy coming out number 2 in the Rumble, I feel was fantastic. Jey sold it so well, watching his brother walk down. And then for me, that was it. In the Rumble, like they kind of wasted the opportunity to do something in the Rumble to kind of really kind of point us in the direction that this is what we're getting at Mania. And then since then, kind of really tell a heartfelt story. I feel like they're relying on, the story has been told through the bloodline stuff. I think they're relying on that they are brothers and that they're probably going to have some VHS footage of them rolling around, wrestling in the living room and all of that kind of stuff. And the vignette is going to be absolutely epic. It's going to be fantastic by the time they show us it. But in terms of really telling this story, I don't know. I feel like they may have let us down a bit. What's your prediction for this match and what's your feelings going into it?
Yeah, I kind of have the same feeling as you. The Rumble is where was a real missed opportunity, because it's like if one eliminates the other, and particularly say like Jey was screwed at the Rumble due to Jimmy, for example, that would have been the perfect ingredient, because I feel WWE is relying on the idea of, yes, Jimmy cost Jey the trouble combat match at SummerSlam. Yes, he cost him the tag team titles. Later, he cost him the IC title. So I get where they're coming from. Like there is the arguments there of why this feud is happening, but it's just there's been so many gaps in the middle that we needed something just to really pinpoint and say this is kicking off from here. And it's like I do know why Jimmy's cost Jey the IC title, but they've not really sold that to what they could have done. It could have been a case of like, you're moving on without me and I'm not going to let you, kind of thing. Like you're not better than me, I'm better than you, sort of thing. I don't feel we've seen so much of that, and I feel like when the story was told, when these two had a promo back and forth on Raw, the idea that it was Jey that wanted to leave the bloodline. Well, if we watched Night of Champions last year, it was clearly Jimmy that wanted to leave the bloodline first and did the super kick, and Jey looked all confused and stuff. Exactly. Yes, we can go a bit back, and it was teased with Jey doing it. Weren't sure what he was and wasn't going to do, but he stuck around. He did stick around. He didn't leave. So I don't know. In places, it's clutching with straws, but to go just deep into prediction, because I could talk about this one for like an hour, but I'm actually going to say that Jey is established as a single star, although I think he needs a couple of big wins. Jimmy is not. Jimmy has almost been the fall guy for a lot of things. And I think that if you look back at previous WrestleManias, we've had brother versus brother, Brett versus Owen, Matt versus Jeff. When it was Brett versus Owen won. You'd expect that Brett would win. When you had Matt versus Jeff, you'd expect Jeff to win, and Matt won. I think because those guys needed it more. Jimmy needs it more, and Jimmy's going to win at WrestleMania, and Jey will win later.
Man, we did. I think Jey is gonna win. I think for literally, and this might sound so stupid, but it's the optics of just the whole arena doing the little hand bounce thing. Like, I think that's it. I think Jimmy, like you said, he's the fool guy. Even sadly, Solo's become somewhat of a fool guy within the bloodline. He's got a terrible record right now, but I just think that, this has to be the point where, if Roman hits rock bottom and The Rock and they will lose and Jimmy hits rock bottom with them, sort of thing. Like, I just don't see Jimmy being the one. This isn't going to be a WrestleMania for the bloodline, apart from maybe night one, which we'll get on to. So I'm going to go with Jay. Definitely the odd brother has always got the win in these past encounters, but I think this time Jay gets the win at Mania.
That's fair.
This match, I think, has totally just been thrown together, and I'm not too pleased about it. Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee versus Dominic Mysterio and Santos Escobar. I mean, Dragon Lee is just forced into the story as of last night as a time of recording. And I'm literally watching Rey Mysterio's face as he says it's going to be Dragon Lee tagging with him. And Carlito is like stone-faced because now what Rey Mysterio done to Escobar, overseeing Escobar for Carlito, he's literally done to Carlito and gone and grabbed Dragon Lee. So I think Rey Mysterio might get beaten up again somewhere down the line. And then Dominic Mysterio kind of finding his way back into this story. I thought the icing on the cake last year was perfect. I watched WrestleMania 39 again a couple nights ago, and I just thought that match was just so good, and the story was so well told at that time. Why we're trying to kind of relive it through this tag match, I just don't really know. In terms of who's going to win, I'm going with Escobar and Dominic Mysterio. What do you think?
Rey's got a habit of putting his foot in it, hasn't he? He's got a real habit of it. I mean, look back to that United States Championship opportunity when he won the title from Theory, and it was supposed to be Escobar. Escobar got hurt, and Rey jumped in like Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 9. He couldn't get there quick enough, could he, to win that championship? So I wasn't surprised that Escobar did it. And like you said, Dom is sort of thrown in. So I agree with everything you say. This has all been thrown together. It's very last minute. It felt like it was going to be LWO versus Legado del Fantasma, and the way it was going because they did that angle. But then Dom got involved. And the reason I think Dom might have got involved, and I'm going to be slightly controversial, I mentioned the draft earlier. I think Dom could be breaking away from Judgment Day in the draft. And I think this could be a tease to see how he fares without them.
Do you think he'll break away as a cause of the draft, or just he's leaving Judgment Day in another way?
Well, we didn't talk about Judgment Day earlier on, but I think the pieces are going to fall apart once they lose those tag team titles, and I think that Damian Priest is the one that can break away as the top singles babyface, if you will, with the briefcase, and I think Finn Balor will be chasing him as the heel to begin with. Dominic, I think, has had his time with Mummy, has had his time with the group. He's been protected enough. I think it's time for him to experiment something different because he gets the reaction. Let's see if he can still get that reaction on his own without needing the group. JD McDonough, bless him, I think is just going to continue on having a big head and getting beaten up and taking great bumps on a weekly basis. But for Dominic, I think that this could be something where maybe he ends up with Legado. Maybe that's where the direction could be. He could be a good fit for that. Rather than being one of the Judgment Day or NWOB squad, he could end up being the one of the elite members of Santos's group, because you kind of lacking maybe a number 2 in that position where he could be the mid-card champion and Santos can try and push to be the top guy. I agree with you. I think that Santos and Dominic are winning this one. And I think Carlito's not always been a good guy. So I think he'll be a bad guy here. He spits in the face of people that don't want to be cool. Well, I could argue and say Rey Mysterio has not been cool here. So yeah, if he gets a bit of apple in his face, I can't say he didn't deserve it.
Yeah, I agree, man. Rey Mysterio, I think he means well, but he literally sticks his foot in it, like you said. Let's go to this almost all-star women's match. We've got Damage Control in the shape of the Kabuki Warriors, Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Dakota Kai, who is like the new de facto leader of the group, going up against Naomi, Bianca Belair, and SmackDown's newest signee, Jade Cargill. Again, as of time of recording, this is kind of fresh off the press that Jade Cargill is going to be part of WrestleMania 40. What's your thoughts on Jade now having a home on SmackDown and joining this particular program? And this is going to be like her first official match at WrestleMania.
I think it's a good placement for her. I think SmackDown is the right home for Jade Cargill. I don't know if necessarily I believe everything I read on the internet. Don't know, it's just a lesson I've been told over the years. But with Jade, she's still inexperienced. I think that's a fair thing to say. She had a great run in AEW, but she's coming to WWE, and it's a different ball game in WWE with the fact of how they have presentation is more important and stuff, and they have different ways of doing their in-ring work and different styles. And I think that Jade is adapting to that style. And a great way to protect her is first off to do a tag team match at WrestleMania. Second is to put her on the show that is not as long every week, because Raw has the longer matches most of the time, and SmackDown has the shorter matches. So I think it's a great way of not overexposing Jade too early in her WWE career. I think it's the right movement. I think it's the right placement. And I think that being aligned with Bianca Belair and Naomi, to arguably you could say seasoned veterans at this point, Bianca's in her prime, you could say, against the Damage Control group, I think it's going to be a fun one. I can see the baby faces winning here. It just seems weird to have Jade Cargill win a WrestleMania match now and her lose. And you mentioned earlier on in this, Bianca has a streak as well. So yeah, I think that they're all picking up the WrestleMania win this year.
Yeah, this is something that weeks ago I was like, no, let's not do this sort of thing. I didn't want these women in Naomi, Bianca, and Jade to kind of be all together sort of thing. And then at the same time, I was very much invested in Bianca Belair versus Tiffany Stratton. I think Tiffany Stratton's actually been like shortchanged. Now she's not going to be on the WrestleMania card because, yeah, I think that she totally deserves it.
I completely agree that Tiffany not being on Mania feels crazy at this point, because they have been sort of teasing the idea with her and Bianca. And I wonder with Asuka, there's been rumors about an injury of Asuka. I don't know how true, legit. Again, protected in the 6-woman tag team match as well. She's protected in that. But maybe Tiffany could have took the place of Asuka. And I think there's still time to do that if it's needed. But it would be a shame if Tiffany doesn't make it onto the card. I'm unaware if there's anything special for WrestleMania SmackDown, a Battle Royal, for example. But maybe she can be showcased and win something like that if that's a different opportunity that she will get.
Yeah, they're definitely doing the men's battle royal on SmackDown. They haven't announced the women's one, but
Okay.
yeah, I that's where I just didn't want this to happen. But after the kind of angle that ended SmackDown and seeing them all together, I just thought, you know what, it looks right. They look great together. It feels right. Let's go ahead. Let's do it. So yeah, that is going to be a very kind of big match, and definitely want to pull in eyes again from elsewhere, that you just see these three guys or kind of or three ladies all together against Damage Control. So looking forward to it. Right, we're getting towards our main event type matches now. We've got the big tag match that's going to main event night one: The Rock and Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. I think the Bloodline dudes are going to win. I think we are heading for a night 2 Bloodline rules match where it's going to be completely overbooked and just so much fun. I don't think you can put The Rock in this kind of situation and The Rock doesn't win. Who gets pinned? I'm not necessarily sure. Or who will do the pinning? I'm not necessarily sure. But I think this is a very straightforward way to kind of protect The Rock. Obviously, first match back in ages. With a tag match, you won't have to do too much work, and we can just sow the seeds for the night 2. And we've all been talking about how we're all looking forward to the night 1 main event. We're even looking forward to Cody versus The Rock, and that's not even advertised. And I think that's what they've literally been doing, selling us on this night 1 match, because night 2 is already taken care of. We know that's the main event. We know what we're getting. The stipulation is really the only thing that's going to be decided. So, yeah, I'm going to go with The Rock and Roman Reigns for the win. What about yourself, Steve?
It would be criminal at this point to be offered a Bloodline rules match on night 2 and not take it. That would just be, it's like, yay, the Bloodline rule ban from ringside. I suppose, it's what as babyface fans, I suppose, would want. It's great for the families and the kids. Cody's got a fair shot, but you don't want Cody. Cody's been looking to finish a story for like 2 years, and it could be longer if you really look into it. This is we're in hopefully. I'm going to say hopefully final chapters. Doesn't necessarily give my night 2 main event prediction away, but I'm hoping that we are, we're in the sequel of this book currently. We're deep into it. And if we're going to go into WrestleMania, it shouldn't be smoothly Cody gets the night 2, hurrah, let's go. He's had adversity for like however long. So Cody needs to be pinned. He needs to be pinned by the final boss. Roman could just be there lapping it up because the fact that Cody's hurt as well, he's been whipped and maybe he's hurt his knee or something. How is Cody going to cope in night 2? Because he's hurt, he's injured, he's been pinned by The Rock, and now he's got to be, in a match where all of the bloodline are partially going to be involved. And that's another reason why I'm going for Jimmy to beat Jay, because it's the idea that Jay can't even get in to help Cody, and Jimmy is there to help Solo, to help Roman, to help they're all going to be involved because they're all fresh and they're good, yet Cody's initial potential backup will not be. We could look at the rights of Seth Rollins. We've not talked about him yet. Is he going to be good to go when it comes to main event time in night 2? He's got Drew to worry about and he's got Punk to worry about. So I'm going for, like you said, Team Bloodline, the power trip of 2024, Rock and Roman to win. And it's going to be a fun sight to see because they can do a lot with this on night 1 to really sell fans more into night 2.
That's exactly it. Okay, we'll obviously come back to this in the shape of the night 2 main event. In the interim, we'll talk about the World Heavyweight title match, Seth Rollins defending against Drew McIntyre. Talk to me about what you think of this feud between these two guys and who do you think is going to win this one?
I am loving Drew McIntyre. I think he is on a roll. I love the fact he's almost gone back to like 2020 where he didn't care, and then fans kind of got on the side of it. But he did it in a babyface way because he'd been a boring heel throughout 2018 and 19. He's kind of done the opposite here. I think we got bored of the babyface and went, well, I'm going to have this kind of like screw it attitude and say what I want. These t-shirts and stuff on CM Punk. It's been amazing TV from Drew McIntyre, and the fact he said as well that Seth is not really getting involved with his story enough. Like it's, he's been too concentrated on what Cody's doing, the Bloodline's doing, but he's been too focused on CM Punk, and he's got caught out this last week on Raw to the point now Punk is involved in the match. Not going to be counting with his left hand for a 1, 2, 3, but he's going to be sitting in the commentary booth. This rivalry is growing on me week on week because legitimately it feels like Drew and Seth hate each other, which is what you want to see, number one. The fact that CM Punk is going to be involved around ringside as well, which of course both Seth and Drew hate as well. This is, after this past week on Raw, has gone up 2 or 3 levels just because of the fact that now it feels anything can happen. And I'm really excited for this match because of that, because I now literally believe any outcome is possible.
This is it. Like, I'm just thinking, well, after the tag match that will happen on night 1, Seth Rollins isn't going to be in the best of conditions. So, that's an advantage to Drew McIntyre already. CM Punk now on commentary. And you mentioned, and he teased it on SmackDown, Priest did that briefcase. Does CM Punk want to see either of these guys leaving the world title? I mean, it's a very interesting situation, and definitely, throwing the spanner that is Damian Priest in there as well has made it even more intriguing with CM Punk on commentary. If it's a straight up match, I'm going to go with Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre must win it. If Drew McIntyre doesn't win, I actually probably even go as far as saying that he's probably leaving the company, because he is one of these names that hasn't signed a new contract allegedly. So if he doesn't win, I would probably think, oh yeah, I'll probably be a lot more worried, because I'm quite invested in Drew, like yourself, right now. And with all the good work and the heat he's obtained recently, to walk into any other company with this, like, it's gonna be crazy. So, but I do think it's Drew McIntyre for the win at this point. Damian Priest and his little, hint, nudge at the title situation and Money in the Bank, I don't know what they're going to do with that. I've always thought if Seth Rollins is to retain, then Damian Priest must cash in like night after on Monday Night Raw or something, and become champion then. But if Drew McIntyre wins, I obviously I don't want him to have a one-day reign or anything like that. So yeah, I'll go with Drew McIntyre, but there are so many spinning wheels in this situation. It's almost very difficult to call.
It's very difficult to call. I have a feeling you're not going to like my prediction for this one. I've got a feeling. Because I agree. We talked about this before about Damien Priest. Could the heist of the century happen to the guy who originally did it 9 years later? But I think we will get a conclusive finish because I just feel I don't think Drew's going anywhere. Like they've built too much for him. I don't,
Likewise.
even with CM Punk, that match could happen at SummerSlam or Survivor Series. It feels like it's built. It would be stupid to have built it and then he leaves the company and they don't get a payoff later in the year. However, I do think that Drew is going to get that moment in front of fans. I think he wins, but I don't think CM Punk is going to like it. And I think it's going to be something with those two that will lead to Priest cashing in immediately afterwards. I think Drew is going to be champion and have his moment for a few minutes and he'll get his comeuppance on the same night in the same segment. And I think that that can lead Priest as well. If we mentioned about this Judgment Day idea I have to break away, Priest can roll off as a babyface, and they could even do him and Finn Balor as a feud for the title come Backlash in Paris.
You know what? I'm not angry at that. I think where a lot of people have said Priest cashes in at Mania and wins, it's the whole literally running down the ramp, joining the match, literally like Seth Rollins done it. So if we tick the box of Drew McIntyre winning, the match is over, he's celebrating, he's having his moment. Like you said, he might have some back and forth with Punk where, he's rubbing it in Punk's face and then, Punk kind of chucks it back to him, maybe hits him, and then Priest comes running out. I could live with that. I don't mind that, to be completely fair. I just don't want it to look exactly how Seth Rollins cash-in looked, sort of thing. Very interesting. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see. But I think either way, Seth Rollins has done well as a World Heavyweight Champion. Under no circumstance should he leave with the title. And if he does escape WrestleMania with the title, by the end of Monday Night Raw, I'll definitely be calling for Damian Priest to have cashed in by then. Well, we'll see. And last but not least, the undisputed WWE Universal Championship match. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes in what we both assume is going to be a Bloodline rules match. He's got to finish the story, right, Steve? This has got to be it, right?
This may be a surprise to some. I'm not much of a reader, Max. I don't have the time to sit down and read a long epic novel. The fact, though, that when it comes to my pro wrestling, I do like a story and I do like a journey, and we've gone on a hell of a ride. But there comes to a point where I think the time is now, and the fans, if all's true, got what they wanted with Cody. You have to pull the trigger. I know that like Roman is about 6 months away from beating Hogan's record, and then is not far from Backlund's record, and then it's just San Martino to go. But as much as Roman's reign has been dominant, and there is still more for him to do, there's our new challengers always around the corner. I am ready for a different WWE vision, a different look at the top. We need new champions because we talked about, Drew or Damien, whoever's with one title. We need it as well with the other one. Roman's had it for too long. We need to start varying things up a little bit because it gets a bit same and boring. So I agree with you. It's just how we're going to get there. Is it going to be simply, which was the original prediction for me, and I think you have said the same when we spoke last, was the idea of The Rock perhaps being a reasoning for it, of this overbooked one. But I can't help but look back at Monday Night Raw and feel things are done for a reason, and Triple H does like to leave these little Easter eggs. And happy Easter, everybody! It is. We saw the truck, and of course, two faces that were on that truck were Stone Cold Steve Austin and John Cena. If you take away The Rock's main event from WrestleMania 2000 out of it, those are the other main events that Rock has had at WrestleMania: Austin twice and Cena twice. Mm-hmm. And I can't help but think to myself, like, that it feels like, again, this Rock main event feel, but also an impact of how the Bloodline, it's Bloodline rules, just because of the fact that Bloodline can get involved, other people can get involved for Cody's side as well. So if we end up with some sort of Avengers style super group that takes down the Bloodline of all these legends of, Cena, and because Cena had problems with Solo, Austin because of the Rock's history as well with him, I wouldn't be against it. To be honest, half of it probably would make sense, but I wouldn't care. I would be completely loving life just seeing all these cameos involved here. It's not the way I envisioned Roman to lose his title, but at the same time, I think we can all agree that if Cody does finish the story and he is the one to do it, he's had a hell of a run the last couple of years. And I don't think WWE are going to screw it up with Cody as the top guy.
Not at all. Like, Cody has been well prepped. He's ready for this position.
Yeah.
He always looks the part. He comes across very well. He's here for the fans. Like you have to. You actually must at this point overbook this match.
Mm.
Like, because to be honest, it has been Roman Reigns' story. Like, he has to have interference, he has to have the help and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's do it. And I think it's a situation where the bloodline are on top. Like, Cody is really struggling. The likes of his current part of the main roster, on screen allies, the Seth Rollins will hobble out, the Jey Uso will come out, maybe even a Sami Zayn, a Kevin Owens. These guys will come out to help Cody, and none of them are gonna make any distance with the help. And then you get a Cena, and then you get an Austin, and these guys really are the equalizers now. And then I think you take away all that noise. So you've had that real sports entertainment element of this match. The fans are on their feet, and then you give us, like, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes of just pure Roman and Cody going at it. And that is where you get almost a clean finish between these two, a definitive finish where Cody pins Roman, no more distractions because they've all, been taken care of. So we get like the best of both worlds in that sense. But like you, I'm as much as a Roman fan, I have been since way before the Tribal Chief stuff. Like, it's time. It's time to crown someone else. I think there's a lot of top guys in and around WWE now, a lot of top guys budding for that spot as well, and we can really do with freshen it up. And I think they've realized Roman and Rock can happen next year. It probably main events night 2 next year without the title. So let's get there without the title. Like, I just don't feel like the title is any more beneficial to this story at this point. For me, it's got to be Cody.
It has. The story is there as well to build it, because the fact is, like you said, Roman becomes vulnerable because for the first time he's without championships for years. What does he do? How does he react? He probably blames The Rock, because on the road to WrestleMania, who's been the noisy one? It's been The Rock. He's the one that's been calling a lot of the shots. Everything was fine for Roman before The Rock got involved. Now The Rock comes in, gets involved. Roman loses those championships. Rock doesn't necessarily have to turn on Roman at WrestleMania. They can do it another way.
Yeah, that is true as well. That is true as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I think, like I said, we need to have that real overbooked feeling to this match, but then give us just a definitive finish as well. I don't want anyone to really play into it, because I think that could potentially harm Cody, or leave opinions on Roman. Is there any part of you, to finish off here, that you think Roman could retain?
Of course, it's happened every show since Payback 2020. So, I mean, I've got to the point where I've said to myself, it doesn't matter what show of the year it is, unless it's WrestleMania, the prediction is always Roman. So this has to finish at a WrestleMania, because it's then arguably one of the biggest WrestleMania moments of all time. So, if Roman retains here, you'll hear the same Roman prediction until next year's WrestleMania. But yeah, of course, there's a part of me that feels it, because we're used to seeing it every time. I felt Clash of the Castle when Drew was I thought he would do it, didn't do it. When it was Cody last year, I thought Cody would do it, he didn't do it. Come on, like you said, it's end game. That's where I did Avengers earlier. It's end game now. So let's finish the story.